Once you've installed Kinovia, you can go File, Open Video, choose the video you want to edit, and open it up. You can click play and see whereabouts you would like to start the video. This video is pretty well timed, and so I'm going to start it from the start. But say you wanted to start it partway through, you can click here on the working zone, and that will then frame your video, the start and the end, which is really helpful. You can change your speed down here. Because I'm starting from the very start, I'm going to add a stopwatch. I'm going to right click on it and go configuration. I'm going to make it nice and big and just call it stopwatch, and I'm going to start it. Right click on it, right click on the stopwatch and go start stopwatch. I'm going to calibrate my length, so I'm going to choose 10 centimeters. I can go control plus on my, so I can pinch to zoom, or I can use my mouse. I'm going to right click on my line and go calibrate measure, and I'm going to go 0.10 meters so that everything's all on the same units. Now I can pinch to zoom or use my scroll mouse, whatever. Next thing I'm going to do is go up to image and coordinate system. This is really important because if you're going to use the Excel spreadsheet that I've got, it's got to have the right reference frame, and we click apply, and that's done as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a spot. I'm going to choose this dot here. I'm going to right click. Okay, I'm going to right click and click track path, and I'm going to put that in the middle. If you're using an experimental version, so I'm currently using Kinovia 8.15. I think the experimental version is 8.25. It is some much better options here in terms of the configuration of this. At the moment, you can just call it label. You can change the name, and it's got some measurements which are a bit average. But anyway, there's a whole bunch more in the later version. So you click track path, and we can hit play, and we notice that it is following it automatically. So it's following that dot and making a lovely line. You have to play through, and say it was to fall off the dot a little bit, you can then come back later on and adjust where it is. Once you've kind of got it in the right place, it's normally pretty good at holding where it's meant to be. Notice the stopwatch is also ticking. The stopwatch automatically gets its time based off the frame rate of the video, so the higher the frame rate, the more accurate the stopwatch is. This is filmed at 1080p at 60 frames a second, and that's where it's getting its time. Okay, so this is getting a little bit boring. You could use a stopwatch and calculate the number of rotations to be able to do calculations. At some point, the speed's going to change. Here we go. The speed's going to change. Click once, didn't really change much. Click twice. Now it's going much faster. You see I'm actually only playing at 85% of the real live speed, but that's okay. You can see the angular velocity significantly increased at about whatever the time was, 11 seconds. So all this data, all this XY data has been compiled into a spreadsheet. We'll let it go around once more, and then I'm going to stop it. Once more, and then stop. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go end path. And I can see the circle, it's pretty symmetrical, which is good, and then that line disappears. What I'm going to then do is go File, Export Spreadsheet, and export it as Microsoft Excel. And it says it's XML, which is not quite Excel, but that's fine. I then need to find that folder. And then I right click on that file and go open with, this is the keep it. If you just double click it, it'll look like all this crazy text, but if you go open with Excel 2016, it'll come up with a whole bunch of useful information, and it's all this data here that you want. And so if you open up the Excel spreadsheet that I've given you, and you copy the data into there, so you highlight all the X, Y, and time data, and you'll see that there is a lot of values. 1,000 values, and I go over to this one and I right click and go paste, and you see all of a sudden all the data is done. So it's got angle calculations in radians, time, and some velocity stuff. And so I can come down here and click angular displacement, and you see, if we just zoom out a bit, two lovely bits. So a nice constant angular velocity up to about 12.01 seconds, and then it increased to a different angular velocity. And so you can right click and go select data and go edit, and it's taking a lot of data points. And so if I just made that the first 500 data points, so remember we got just over 1,000 data points, you'll see now the times are actually correct. So that's the first 7 seconds, 8 seconds, or whatever. So you can go select data, edit, and if we went from 500 up to 1,000, you have to choose which data points you want to look at, 500 to 1,000. Because this is XY coordinates, these values should be the same. Click OK, and then you get your 8 seconds to your 16 seconds. You can right click and go add trend line, and you can click display on chart, and you see that that doesn't quite fit the data because you've got to remove it. So if I was to come here, choose that data point, hover my mouse over it, I see it's 12.16 seconds. If I look in my time data, 12.16 seconds. Sorry, let's try that again. Time is in column F. .16 seconds is 738. So if I go to my angular displacement, right click, select data, edit, and change this to 738. 738. Then I should only get that second part, which is what I do. If I maybe get rid of that, right click on the go, format trend line, or add trend line, display equation, and there you go. Now I've got y equals 6.7x. So y is angular displacement, so theta equals 6.7 t. And from that you should be able to do some calculations. It's a lovely straight line, and the closer the r-squared value is to 1, meaning that data is basically perfect. Look at the angular velocity, seeing something a little bit special here. We can push some buttons, getting smoothing on and smoothing off. Yeah, something special happening there. It's not really meant to happen. Your distance versus time in the x direction, your distance versus time in the y direction. You're seeing something quite special with them coming clumped. This is not sinusoidal because it's not really going anywhere. It's just going, repeating the same thing. And this is a circle, so this should be pretty circular, which it is, and this radius should be about the same, which it more or less is. It just means that my center is not quite in the right place. So that's what you can do from the Excel spreadsheet using Kinovia.